Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? I think that one of the things that I always come back to is if that moment ever occurred, to give children the freedom to actually be critical thinking human beings. And so I'd love for you to break down this parenting style that you've adapted into depth so we can create more context because people are going to be like, this person's crazy. But I'm like, no,
Oh,
I get it.
yeah, cool. And I've been called crazy before because I talk about the partnership parenting paradigm and I write about it in my book as well. Um, Basically, it is parenting in partnership. It's really that simple, which means as a parent, we are accountable for our agendas. Do we have an agenda because it's convenient to change our child's behavior because it serves us? There are many different sort of philosophies around parenting, and if you were a parent, I'm sure you'd be aware of conscious parenting and gentle parenting and peaceful parenting. And unfortunately, I think these philosophies that have been written about, ad nauseum, stop short of actually working because there is a hidden agenda, which is to manipulate the behavior of your child, which does not honor them as an individual. Now, it's true that my son and I have different roles. You know, I, as the adult, I'm the responsible one. I pay the bills, especially when he was 9, 10. Um, but there was a point where we actually started businesses together, and I could talk about that later too. But in essence, the belief that and most of Western culture believes that children are empty vessels that are meant to be filled with parents, you know, uh, values, with parents' ideas and perspectives. And that is a harmful belief because it doesn't make space for this individual that came into your life that has a unique, there's agency, there's autonomy, there's sovereignty to their being, and they're entrusted in you to guide them and facilitate their journey. But if you have the belief as the parent that I need to instill my values and he needs to do it or she needs to do it this way, and anything outside of this perception, this empty vessel that I need to fill, and any desire that is different is contrary, and I need to apply the heavy fist through my authority for their own good. I'm beating you for your own good, sort of. That came from the 50s. This is going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt me, sort of attitude. And that's absolutely what generationally we need to let go. This this authoritarian parenting process, this authoritarian philosophy is what brings children into the world not knowing who they are. The school system is actually the same, right? It tells kids what they need to focus on, based not even based on their own interests, and they need to and the school system tells them how long they need to be studying this little, whatever this, 50-minute period. You need to study, and then you need to switch when a bell rings and go and study another thing, and then do math, then focus on history, then focus on language, then focus. Why is this authoritarian training I indoctrinating children to follow some sort of authoritarian, you know, uh, edict?
Dystopia comes to mind for me, right? And I think the reason why is very simple because when you are educated in that capacity, now you're a cog in the wheel and now you can go work for the system and now you can go help us make the money and then you die. And I think that's I mean that's a simplified version of it. And I
Yeah,
mean, I remember I read we cannot go down this path, but I read Howard Zim's A People's History of the United States and I was
love.
like, "Oh, now I know everything that I need to know." And so that ultimately, and I read that at 17 years old,
Yeah,
became
I
the
did too.
framework for me being like, "Okay, I'm gonna push against the grain." It took me a lot longer to get involved to where I am now, but It is. We are so indoctrinated and there's so much trauma. I mean, I grew up in a time where teachers and principals could still hit kids.
Me too.
And my principal, I remember distinctly beat me with a paddle multiple times. And people look at that and go, "Oh yeah, well at least you're getting disciplined. Now you've learned your lesson." And I'm like, "That never stopped me." And in fact, it made me figure out how do I get away with it next time, right? And then that did not hold well for me as I progressed into adolescence. One of the things I know people must be thinking, because I'm thinking it, if you are living in this consensual parenting relationship, if you're giving your child space to be in alignment with values, if you're going through all of these things, well, then what do you do when discipline comes to the table?
Okay, so the implication, and especially from the conventional world, is discipline that comes from an authority. Because I am not my child's authority, I am my child's partner. I don't have to set the rules. And in fact, we don't live by rules, we live by values. I don't need to actually be the person who is policing to make sure the rules are being followed. And I don't need to be the punisher. So to me, that sums up what conventional discipline encompasses in the conventional world. But in our world, and in the world of many people that are adapting, unschooling, radical unschooling, self-directed learning, and partnership parenting, what they believe is there's a thing called natural consequences, and those natural consequences give us what we need to know in terms of our own self-regulation. So if we have a small child who really wants to climb up the slide the wrong way, and if we say, no, don't do that, you're going to hurt yourself. You are now putting fear into your child. You're telling your child that they are not aware of what their physical capabilities are. And we're punishing them. And that's just a really small example. But if we say to them, I'm here for you, try, step outside of your comfort zone. You are safe. Let's do this.
Mm.
That's an act of self-regulation, and that's just a small example of a small child, and I could talk about example after example of being in partnership and being the person who is reflecting back what this self-regulation looks like. "Oh, you stayed up all night, and you knew that we agreed that we'd go to this museum. How do you wanna handle this? How is it feeling right now? What's going on internally? Feeling really sleepy? What shall we do?" That is a very simple, natural consequence, and that's not me playing my agenda like, "See, I told you so." That's me through kindness, through partnership, through wanting to nurture this human being who is discovering everything they can about their physical body, about how they fit into the world, about, their regulation, the nervous system regulation process, and their own emotions. So it looks very, very different. Discipline comes from within, and it's called self-discipline. And the motivation, which is intrinsic motivation to learn, intrinsic motivation to achieve something, intrinsic motivation to explore, that will always define the deepest learning and the deepest discovery and the deepest development of self than me telling another human being, go do this because it's good for you.